I think there are three plausible reasons as to why we find ourselves in a situation that we have that many African students in Ukraine. The first response is pretty much simply in relation to what the scholarships that are being provided by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Ukraine. There's been a deliberate effort on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to provide scholarships to African students, and this is in the various science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs, and then of course to replicate what is already existing with the US's Fulbright program, as well as the Commonwealth scholarships that are provided by the United Kingdom. With a growing population, on the other hand, you basically have seen that there's a significant mismatch in terms of the educational opportunities that are available locally, and also the number of students that are actually demanding these particular programs. While there has been an increase in the number of private universities as well as better regulation, I think there's still some concerns around the quality of the education that's provided by some of these new private educational institutions. And this is what prompts many of the African students to seek opportunities overseas. The prestige that the burgeoning middle class assigns to an overseas education. I think we also need to be mindful of that. There's a significant generational change in terms of the Africans, and then we have African millennials who would like to pursue educational opportunities overseas and experience other cultures. And consequently, those parents who have seemingly some resources, not perhaps enough to basically see them through to school universities in the United States or the United Kingdom, would be looking forward for a tier 2 opportunity, and which countries like Ukraine might be willing to offer.
What is the nature of relationship between Ukraine and different African countries?
The biggest challenge is that they are not that significant, except for the educational support programs. There doesn't seem to be some deeper economic, let alone political ties between Ukraine and the rest of Africa, save for the fact that Ukraine has some democratic credentials, and that basically is a potential area of interest or interaction with various African states. It's its democratic credentials and its educational support programs, in short.
To what extent does the conflict now between Ukraine and Russia have any impact on African economies?
So there have been some partnerships with former Soviet states, and what we seem to be finding from the evidence is that those relationships seem to be with countries like Belarus as opposed to Ukraine. And in those instances, what you seem to be seeing is that there's some support in terms of providing policing equipment, police trucks. Speaking to the economic opportunities that basically arise from this, there's an escalation in the cost of crude oil, which basically many African countries seem to be highly dependent on. And then, of course, various estimations basically predict that, well, the crude oil price, basically, which has basically increased to $140 currently, is likely to hit the $200 mark. And then, of course, that will have significant implications on inflation in many African states. And then the second area that this contra is likely to affect various African states is simply around the issue of grains and crops, in particular corn and wheat. Ukraine basically is Ukraine and Russia basically contribute about 30% of all the grain that is consumed in Europe,